Small town North Carolina, Hillsborough, a town full of passion, with a nightlife scene of locals always reliably found at Nash Street Tavern on a Tuesday night. For some, Hillsborough is home to multiple family generations. For others, Hillsborough represents a new life in a new country. I found this place as a young feminist still reeling from the results of an unthinkable election. Yeah, that's me. What could a small town in a historically red state offer me? Scouring the town's website, an event caught my eye, the Women's March on Hillsborough. I wandered into the town timidly with my camera. No one knew who I was or why I was there. But that didn't matter. People were willing to share their work with me. I was quickly swallowed up into this little town, finding the women who started the Women's March there. Meet Sarah Burt Timmel. Along with Christina Benson, she brought the Women's March to Hillsborough. She knew that there was one already planned for Raleigh, the state capital, but Raleigh wasn't her home. She wanted the march to represent her and the people in the town she loves. It wasn't long before I was invited over for a Sunday brunch with the women at the heart of the movement in Hillsborough. Words echoed in the room from an email from the Women's March Network support team. They told us we'd fade away. They dismissed us as paid protesters and criminals. They said we wouldn't show up when it mattered. They were wrong. After the election results, many people were distraught, fearing the changes that may come in the new term. Being able to share this stress with others lifted a burden that many in the country were wondering how to handle. This wasn't just a small-town protest, but a national movement. So we moved from the seclusion of Hillsborough to march on the state capitol. The annual Moral March on Raleigh took on new meaning after the election. There we listened as the president of the NAACP took the stage, as Catholic priests, Protestant pastors, Jewish rabbis, and Islamic imams spoke. We bowed our heads in prayer. I'd never seen a crowd more impassioned, never more ready for battle than this. And many knew the battles would not soon end, for there was a war to win. So for a group of women where silence was never an answer, it only made sense to take to the streets again for a day without a woman. The premise was simple. On March 8th, women would go on strike. In 1975, 90% of Icelandic women went on strike to demonstrate the indispensable work women do and to highlight wage discrepancy and unfair employment practices. The strike brought Iceland's parliament to pass a law guaranteeing equal rights for men and women. This year, we thank those who went on strike and those who couldn't that wore red in support of the cause. Sarah's fight for women's right in Hillsborough began at one of her favorite places, Nash Street Tavern. She comes here for every open mic night and talks with her friends as much as she listens to the music. In fact, the idea for the Women's March on Hillsborough began during a conversation between her and the town mayor. Her husband describes her as a Labrador retriever, capable of making friends with everyone. When I see a girl catches his eye, I go and make friends with her, Sarah muses. It's worked for 29 years. Sarah's friendships move seamlessly from Tuesday nights at Nash Street Tavern to Wednesday nights at Union Grove Methodist Church. And her spirit for activism continues as home-cooked meals are shared with members of the church community and women from a local women's shelter. Dinner conversations turn into shared recollection of Boy Scout troop trips from years past and tales of whitewater rafting trips from all over the world. Reverend Greenway is never far from the conversation. And as older members of the church help the younger with homework, there is always time for a fun break. For Sarah, Hillsborough also brings family celebration, even meaning just a quick, unplanned reunion at Weaver Street Market in the center of town. Nicole Peterson Duarte is a cousin of Sarah, who has lived in Hillsborough for the past 2 years. As an immigrant from Costa Rica and the wife of a Mexican immigrant, Nicole has seen a town that is still very divided by race. Over lunch, she explained that the Latino community of Hillsborough is rarely found at Weaver Street Market. However, her American citizenship affords her the ability to be both a part of both communities. Nicole's son, Milan, is currently 4 months old and is the first member of her family to be born in the United States. If I wanted to be a good mother, I had to be educated in order to be able to raise an educated child, she said. Nicole's education and intelligence are as clear to anyone who meets her as her love for Milan. Sarah's love for Milan and the rest of her family and friends in Hillsborough is just as easy to see. Back at Nash Street Tavern for another open mic night, Sarah explains that the secret to open mic night is love and tolerance. And perhaps this is the secret to living in Hillsborough, or at least the secret to Sarah's life in Hillsborough. With the drinks still coming and the Hillsborough barbecue still warm, there always seems to be time for another dance in this small town. Without Sarah's love, the Women's March on Hillsborough wouldn't have happened. The signs and posters for International Women's Day would remain unpurchased and blank on the shelves. And I wouldn't have found myself leaving the comfort of Duke to become a part of the community of this little town.